Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. We appreciate you joining us this morning. If you're watching us live, thanks for that. If you're watching the show later online, we do upload these podcasts to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. And if you're watching there, we appreciate that. There are audio and video versions there for you to consume at your leisure. Thanks for checking that out. Traffic today is actually pretty moderate, not too bad. You're looking at some intermittent delays after Millerville heading back on I-12 westbound towards Jubin Road. But they're intermittent. It's not solid. It's looking pretty good flow on I-12 this morning. So you're also seeing that reflected on the surface streets. Not too bad at 190 4-H Club Road and River Road in Denham Springs, and pretty well on 64 heading into Central. There are, of course, delays on 16 at Denham Springs High School, 16 at Live Oak High School, as well as Burgess near Walker High School, as a lot of these kids are getting dropped off. So please keep that in mind. It's currently 57 degrees, 78 is your high. Going to be a warm one today, so prepare for some warm weather this afternoon. 53 your overnight low. You're looking at a little bit of a cool front coming through, then it's going to spike over the weekend, then it's going to spike up on Monday, looking for some thunderstorms, and then it's going to get cold. Going to get into that 50-30 range. 50s for your highs, 30s for your lows. So please be prepared for that. Parish Council met last night. We're going to try not to spend too much time talking about them, because a lot of people knew what was coming up, just about what the results were. The syringe program is not officially, it's dead for the time being. It has been tabled without a future date. A lot of concerns were raised at the meeting last night, including address tracking for people who participate in the program. What are the requirements for the people who are participating in the program? Do you have to have a needle to be able to come in and participate in the program? Where is the program going to be located? And then, the answers to those questions they weren't real great. So they don't track the address of folks. They do have to have a syringe, but there was no definitive answer on what they have to do to stay in the program or how they get presented into the program. The idea is that this is supposed to be both a disease curbing program as well as a drug curbing program. How they curb disease is trying to get those needles that have been used off the streets. Now, that is not the only way to pass those bloodborne diseases. There were folks who had personal issue with opioid use, or had family members with personal opioid use problems in the past, who spoke vehemently against the program. Also, Jeff Ard, the councilman from District 1, who is brothers with Sheriff Jason Ard, they've both been on the show, said that his brother was also vehemently against the program, mostly because Livingston would be a leader in this area. That would be the St. Helena Tangipahoa area. Worried that it would bring people here, transient folks, to stay if they could be able to exchange out dirty needles to use their drugs. When the health officials were asked who else had the program, it was Orleans, East Baton Rouge, Rapides, which is Alexandria, and Bossier, which is Shreveport. So only large cities have this program at the moment. Parish Council wasn't too interested in being, again, a leader in the region for a program like this. Wanted more data. When they asked for data from those programs, East Baton Rouge started in 2017, for instance, they didn't have any readily available. They're going to have to pull that up. So again, the syringe program tabled indefinitely. There is no future date attached to it. It'll be interesting to see if it ever comes back up. But those were the questions, comments, and concerns that came up last night at the council meeting that seemed to cause the council to switch from kind of a split. There was very mixed reviews going into last night. Some were for it, some were against it. But after a lot of those comments, it was tabled without a future date unanimously. Speaking about being tabled for a unanimous tabling without a future date, grinder pumps we've hit the reboot button at the ordinance committee before the parish council last night. Committee chairman Gary Frog Talbert said that he was more interested in trying to find a different way to enact this than to continue to try to put the responsibility on folks that might be involved in the building or the sale. The problem is that there have been several iterations of the grinder pump ordinance. First, it was putting the onus on real estate agents. They fought back. After that was passed and sent to Leighton Ricks. He vetoed it after being lobbied by the real estate agents, went back to the parish council. So this time they tried builders and developers. And then within that, they threw in anyone selling the home. So again, that's putting it on the people, the owners, and who might not have any idea and whether or not they have a grinder pump. When that language was added, this kind of got fouled up again. So Councilman Talbert wants to try to start over, to which Bubba Harris, councilman from District 4, who kind of started all this, agreed that it needed to be rebooted. Talbert's, logic on that was that if we can't hold these professionals, builders, developers, real estate agents accountable, how can we hold homeowners accountable when they may only live there for a year? Grinder pump may never fail. They just may never know. How could they pass that information along? So they're going to hit the start button again, or the reboot button, and the start button again. They'll be looking at either banning grinder pumps altogether from future developments, or making it so that the sewer company, who would be responsible for the line, would be responsible for the line up to the grinder pump. So they would be responsible for the maintenance of that implement. Now, I always have to say this: if you don't know what a grinder pump is, you can Google it. Do not watch the YouTube videos. But it is a sewer implement. Keep it at that. So this all kind of started because of several residents, and specifically a man named Eric Harrell from a subdivision south of Denham Springs called Serene Acres, had grinder pumps that were constantly failing. Harrell himself has spent over $20,000 repairing his grinder pump and that sort of thing. And he finally went to his parish councilman and said, there's something wrong here. And so after having some friends of his who were engineers, electricians, that sort of thing, inspect the grinder pump, found that the intake and outtake flow pipes were too small. The grinder pump itself was too small for the house that it was servicing. It wasn't getting enough electricity, and the force main at the end of their subdivision was not powerful enough. It really wasn't pulling and pushing out as well as it should have been. So there was a lot of problems with the sewer implements in Serene Acres. So this has kind of started a discussion on grinder pumps. Parish Councilman Tracy Girlinghouse, who's from District 7, who's also been on the Walker Council, said that the reason he got into politics was grinder pumps. They tried to deal with it as best they could in Walker. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, how they try to handle this problem going forward. There was, moving on, there was a hot button topic, which was a new subdivision at the corner of Dunn Road and Lockhart Road. It's called Eden Heights, and the reserve at Eden Heights. I'm sorry, we got to throw that reserve in there. It has been approved. According to Parish Councilman Maurice Scooter Keene, who is the representative for the area, they had actually initially requested three waivers, which he was going to kind of fight them on. They retracted all that. So there was no waivers. They still have to do a drainage and traffic impact study. But as of right now, we've been talking about it a lot here on the show. It is that point where there's just no option. The Parish Council has no legislative option. As long as there are no waivers and the initial plat map in terms of construction setbacks and that sort of thing meet the requirements for the parish, there's nothing that the Parish Council can do. If they fight, they've already been through litigation once in the past, according to Parish Council Attorney Chris Moody, which was a waste of taxpayer money because the builder won. So they're trying to show, we're going to try to do some things in the future to curb this, but for right now, there's nothing we can do. We being the news, have reached out to the Planning Commission and the Parish Council to see how many subdivisions have been approved this year and what kind of plats we're looking at and that kind of thing, as these folks try to build out how many homes are coming, how many new homes are coming. So it's going to be interesting to see that information. However, going back to the reserve at Eden Heights, you're looking at 75 lots on about 22 acres. They're third-acre lots. They do meet parish ordinance. One of the things that the residents who were against it from Summer Run, which is just north of that subdivision, is they were worried about drainage. I mean, that is the hot button topic these days. Now, it's not in a flood zone. I'm not sure if there's going to be any dirt fill in these homes. But one of the things that the developer is doing is he's taking 6 acres near the back of the development and putting in dry retention, which is a big deal. I mean, we're talking about, 10 feet deep and 6 acres of it. The idea would be that it would also be able to take some of that summer run runoff, and it would be able to take some of that subdivision runoff, detain it, and hold it if there's a heavy rain that fills up the creek, and then it would slowly drain into the creek. So it could actually help their drainage. The drainage impact study will say more, along with gravity drainage getting involved there. So there are potential benefits to the subdivision compared to the way that the drainage works now in the area, which is that water just sits there, right there on that corner lot at the corner of Dunn Road and Lockhart. Now, one concern, and the developer is working with DOTD, is that the subdivision's exit is proposed to go into the roundabout. So it's going to be a little hairy going forward. Now, we did learn last night that roundabout should begin construction any day now. They're looking for utility reconstruction has been done. They're looking to mobilize to do that project. Now, let's talk about mobilization a little bit, because moving on, talking about the budget was approved with a lot of amendments. The parish council will be looking to put $500,000 towards blighted properties, condemnations, demolitions, cutting, things as basic as cutting grass, especially after 2016 flood, trying to get these houses cleaned out, get the land back into commerce, that kind of thing. They'll be working on an ordinance to go with that money. If they can't find one to go with it, they'll scrap it and move the money back into the general fund. But that was one of the amendments that came up last night. Lots of discussion surrounding the road program and trying to see how they can get all of the road program for that year done in that year. And they're going to try this year, and we're going to be writing that up for you guys, and we will talk with you about that Monday. But the $65 million budget was approved last night, moving forward into 2020. A lot of questions came up around that. Louisiana Watershed Institute meets this morning at 9:30. Yours truly will be there. That we discussed that a few days ago. That is the group that is charged with distributing this $1.2 billion block grant. Mostly it's all going towards watershed protection and that sort of thing. There are several different categories of projects, everything from large scale watershed level projects to state level projects to, smaller funds that deal with policy and that sort of thing. So, mapping. So there's a lot of ways you can get money for this. One thing that the parish of Livingston will probably be looking for from that is trying to help get that matching grant funding, maybe not for the land use portion of the master plan, but for the master drainage plan. Again, those things were added to the 2020 budget, which would be matching funds for those upgrades to the 2013 master plan. So keep an eye on that, see if they're going to attack that. Moving on into sports, basketball continues. We're in full swing with that. The basketball special section will be active next week. It'll be inside the Thursday's paper. We will also be attending the parish tournament, which begins Tuesday. It is at Holden. Should be a lot of fun this year. Walker boys, as we mentioned, took the top spot again. However, very balanced on the girls' side. They had a lot of trouble with seeds 1 through 7, which is a great sign. That means there's going to be a lot of excitement on that side of the bracket. Right now, had a couple of good games last night. Walker was in Lake Charles for a tournament, and they claimed to win. Albany girls were at the Denham Springs tournament and beat the 5A Central Lady Cats. So congratulations to Albany for that big win. That's a big deal. We talked yesterday about it. David Gray wrote it up. It's at www.livingstonparishnews.com/living. But the Automotive Service Tech Program at the Literacy and Technology Center received a 2014 Ford Focus from Robinson Brothers Ford in Baton Rouge. It'll be a chance. You probably never see the road. They may test it to make sure they did the repairs correctly in the parking lot. But it is for them to take apart, put back together, learn how to repair certain problems on a Ford. It's an especially interesting program because, as we know, a lot of cars these days are coming with onboard computers. So dealing with those computers as well as the mechanical parts is kind of finding a little synergy there. So again, thank you to Robinson Brothers. I know that the Lit and Tech Center, which is also part of Southeastern at Livingston, appreciates that donation. Those kids are going to be working on that Ford for many years to come. Again, minor delays. We're going back to your traffic at Millerville, heading back westbound on I-12, or heading back eastbound because you're going westbound into Baton Rouge on I-12. Those delays are reflected in the surface streets, looking relatively clear this Friday morning. Small delays on 64 heading into Central, and small delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190. There is some delay starting at 190 and Jubin Road, so please keep that in mind as folks are funneling out of Walker after they're dropping their kids off at school. Looks like it's clearing up in Denham Springs as well as Watson, as well as those kids get school started and those folks get out of town. It's currently 57 degrees, 78 degrees is your high, 53 your overnight low. Getting a little warm today, going to get a little cooler over the weekend, then it's going to spike, and it's going to get warm on Monday, and then it's going to rain, and then we're going to have 50s and 30s for several days coming up next week, so be prepared for that. But the next few days do prove or do show that they're going to be lovely days, maybe a few clouds here and there, but a little warmer during the day. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you joining us for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. We are here live with you every morning, 7:30 a.m., talking about what happened the day before. We are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are also in print once a week on Thursdays. We're online, as I mentioned the URL several times, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We also have an app. Hope you have a great weekend. Go Tigers, go Lions, and go Colonels. So we got LSU is on the road for the SEC Championship in Atlanta. If you got to go, I'm jealous. The Southeastern Lions are up in Wyoming, and the Nichols Colonels will be, in Fargo, North Dakota, to play North Dakota State. So good luck to those football teams this weekend. Good luck to our basketball teams that are in tournaments. Again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, signing off on the morning show this week. We'll be back in the booth Monday. Hope you have a great weekend.